How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with Alex and Ryan. Tuesday here after the Yankees beat the Twins 6-2 on Monday with Will Warren on the mound. Today we're doing a Will Warren specific episode, another FSY darling if you've been watching the podcast. For the last couple of years, you know we've been watching Warren like a hawk for a better part of 3 seasons now, and finally, he's starting to come into his own, really pitching with confidence, getting himself out of trouble. I know he gave up 2 solo homers yesterday, but aside from that, I'd say he was pretty dominant. He was one of the only pitchers in the most, recent weeks to actually pitch more than 6 innings. So that's encouraging too. A little bit of length from Warren, really good stuff. We want to talk about his pitch mix, really where his next developmental steps are going to come from, and what he's done up to this point since the All-Star break. He's been really, really good for this team. One of this kind of cemented, I say, back-end rotation arms, but the upside, if he gets those secondary pitches going, is a mid-rotation arm and a pretty solid one. So, he's blossomed into a really, really solid pitcher for the Yankees. Tons of control with Will Warren, who's only 26 years old, free agent in 2031. So they have him locked in for a long, long time, and if he gets to his potential, if he reaches that potential, which we know he can, this is going to be a really good arm for the Yankees, and one that is taking steps forward in real time. So Ryan, how you do today, my friend, and how are you kind of feeling about Will Warren and the steps he's taken since the All-Star break?
Yeah, I've been really encouraged with what we're seeing from Will Warren. I think we're starting to see him trust his fastballs in zone more. Both of those pitches were real negative pitches for him last year. This year, they're plus pitches for him. His sinker is not being hit hard at all. It's not getting a ton of swings and misses, but I think that's fine. He's getting a lot of called strikes, a lot of soft contact. It's finally becoming a pitch he can rely on to get outs. He's using it 20.8% of the time this season. Batters are hitting .234 with a .297 slugging percentage. Just 1 home run allowed on it, and again, the low launch angle, the really high called strike rate on this pitch. Very few pitchers generate as many called strikes as Will Warren. This sinker is becoming a real weapon for him, and you look at the 4-seam fastball, a 188 average, a 330 slug, a 26% whiff rate. These are 2 firmly above average pitches in terms of performance on the season. They have really good movement profiles, and it sets him up to go after guys, attack the zone aggressively, and start setting up his secondary pitches. Now, we're still seeing some warts with his location on his curveballs or his sweepers or his changeups. When he leaves them in the zone to get hit, they get hit. Yesterday, you saw Trevor Larnach absolutely demolish a curveball in zone. Byron Buxton was able to get around a spinning sweeper on the outer half of the plate for a home run. But again, it's that ability to attack the zone with fastballs, do so aggressively, get ahead in counts, stay ahead in counts, generate early outs in counts, and not have to use 5, 6, 7, 8 pitches to get a guy out. You instead maybe use 2 or 3 and you still get the out anyways. First pitch outs, still very important in this league when you're trying to pitch deep into games. You saw a very economical version of Will Warren yesterday, a pitcher who I think if the Yankees were leading 5-0 in that start or if they had scored their runs earlier in the game, I think Warren would have gotten a chance to pitch through 8. I mean, he was really efficient. And again, it all comes back to, hey, being able to throw that fastball, go after guys with that fastball. He fell behind the count 3-0, I believe, 3 different times, recorded an out each and every time, Alex. That's what you need to see from a young pitcher. A willingness to go after guys, a lack of fear of challenging hitters. You've got good fastballs, throw them. The velo was up yesterday. Overall, again, just a very impressive stretch for Will Warren, who over his last 13 starts, Alex, has a 3.46 ERA. He's starting to become a really nice back-end starter, but now we have that conversation of, okay, is he upgrading to more of that middle-of-the-rotation starter? And I know this isn't flashy or sexy. You go, wow, he's a real solid 4, and maybe he's a really solid 3 instead, but at cheap cost, at low cost, and the fact this is his first full season pitching, Alex, the upside for, hey, can this guy become a number 2? I'm not saying a number 1, but can he be a number 2 starter one day? I definitely think that's on the table, and it's more real than ever before.
It absolutely is. And, we talked about Warren's upside, his pitch mix, kind of what makes him so intriguing. The fastball, you tweeted about it yesterday. He has that 4-seam fastball and the sinker. Both are producing pretty encouraging results. That 4-seam fastball is legit. It only averages 93.2 miles per hour, but it's the command of it. He loves to get it high in the zone. He loves to encroach on batters with it. He has pretty solid just locating services when you look at the 4-seamer, which has a 188 batting average with a 330 slugging rate. Pretty encouraging stuff there. 26% whiff rate, 23.5% put away rate. Now the sweeper and the changeup is where I know you also tweeted about his changeup, and it is pretty solid with a 232 batting average. It's been getting better lately. Only about 11% usage, so I think that he'll probably want to increase that at some point. We know that they probably loves to get those involved against left-handed batters specifically, which is probably why the percentage is lower. But the sweeper really, was kind of his MO going through the minors. Hasn't been as effective in the majors. 337 batting average with a 543 slugging rate. When you're looking at this, Ryan, looking at his sweeper, where does he have to improve with it? If he gets that slider down, if he gets that thing to where we know it can be with the high whiff rates and just really good swing and miss capabilities, that could be his primary strikeout pitch, a pitch that just dominates. What does he have to do to fix that? Get it to a place where he can utilize it in tandem with his fastball to be that strikeout pitch and really take his game to the next level.
I think that comes down to execution. The shape of this sweeper is really good. Now, there are a couple of things to note with a sweeping slider. Number one, they move so much that guys don't always swing at it, so sometimes it can be hard to get chases. It kind of depends on how you throw your slider, how you execute it, who you're throwing it to, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing that Will Warren has to do better is getting it off the middle of the plate or just miss away. It's a little weird because you simultaneously want to go after people, you want to get ahead in the count, you want to attack the zone aggressively, but you also don't want to allow damage contact. You're trying to do both these things, and they oftentimes work against each other, right? When you're throwing a lot of strikes and guys start swinging and cheating, and everyone can, I say cheating as in getting ahead, not actually cheating, but when everyone can hit the ball so hard and everyone can hit home runs, when you leave a pitch in the zone, it's going to leave the yard or it's going to be hit hard. And I think you're seeing that with the sweeper where the location of it is at times, he's a little too aggressive with that sweeper or he's a little too afraid to miss out of zone. If you look at the heat map here, which I'll put up here on the screen and the viewers at home will be able to see it, his sweeper is, it's really concentrated middle down or middle. That is not a healthy location to throw your sweeper. It's a hanging breaking ball. If a guy decides, hey, I can see this pitch, I'm swinging at it, they're going to crush it. But if he can keep it to the bottom, I think it's that bottom right quadrant's really where you want it to be because against lefties and righties, it'll do two things. Number one, a lot of swings and misses, a lot of swings in general. And number two, when they do hit it, it's going to be very hard to pull unless you have a very long swing and you know that pitch is coming. So again, sometimes it'll happen and there's no pitch in baseball really for a starting pitcher that will never get hit for a home run if you throw it enough times. But you can definitely limit some of the contact or damage contact on it. The last thing I'd like to point out, Alex, is I'd like to see him throw some more backdoor sweepers to lefties. I think that it's an effective pitch to steal strikes. You kind of see it with his curveball too, but he'll try to flip one over to steal strikes. Again, these two pitches can't really live in the heart of the zone. The fastballs can. The fastballs actually do have a good amount of success doing so. If you want to look at his four-seamer, batters are hitting 298 on fastballs right down the middle, which seems like a lot, but that's not really a lot. Like 298 on right down the middle fastballs that's not a high number. His sinker, batters are hitting 240 on his sinker when he throws it down the middle. That's not a lot at all. So he can go after guys, fastball, in zones, go challenge these dudes. And then with the breaking balls, we got to get out of the zone a little bit more. We got to be a little more comfortable missing out of the zone. If it's 0-2 and you miss with a breaking ball away, you get back at him with a fastball, or you double up on that breaking ball. You don't have you can be okay missing because you can throw your fastballs for strikes and get outs. That's what makes the fastballs part so important here, Alex. When you can throw your fastballs for strikes, and when you can throw your fastballs for strikes and get outs doing so, it makes everything better because you can throw your breaking balls away. If you're down 3-0 in a count, okay, let's get the fastball going. We'll get this guy out, or we'll at least put ourselves in a position where we're not going to give him the free pass when it's not necessary. That's what the fastball is the foundation. The breaking ball is the sweeper now. It's about just a little bit of fine-tuning, a little bit of honing. These are not fundamental issues or foundational issues with his game. It's small tweaks. It's being a young pitcher who's inexperienced.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it takes great pitchers a long time to really get their entire game at a balanced level. Right now, he has that fastball command. It's not blazing fast. I think he did hit 97 with his sinker yesterday, one of the fastest pitches ever. I think you mentioned that. So
yeah, it was the fastest pitch of his career, 97.1 miles per hour to strike out Buxton, I believe.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. So he's dialing it up. He's getting better as the season progresses, and that's something. I know that he's taken a lot of information and absorbed a lot of I guess you could say insight from Garrett Cole, one of the guys that's helped him a lot. And one of the things that I love about Garrett Cole, there's two things. I mean, there's many things, but there's two things in specific in this comparison that I'm going to make. One, Garrett Cole always got better during the second half of the season. Like, he always managed to be his best heading into the playoffs. That's a skill that you build up, and then you consistently just improve as the year progresses. We're kind of seeing the opposite for Max Fried right now, right? He dominated to start. Now he's falling off during the second half of the year. Will Warren's kind of going the Garrett Cole route right now. He was struggling in the first half. Now he's really picking it up in the second half. If he finishes the season like this and the Yankees make the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised if Will Warren was pitching a playoff game. Like, that's the way that I think he could get to. That's the goal I think he wants to achieve. So if he keeps playing like this and pitching like this, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him the rock, if they had confidence in him in that way. But Will Warren, the one thing that I think he has to get a little bit more refined, you said it, using those breaking pitches out of zone, getting chases. That sweeper, sometimes he's dotting it in the strike zone and it's just laying up for people. He has to be able to command that sweeper. Now he's kind of just throwing it. It has great movement, and it's a good pitch. It's just not located properly. The fastball's located properly. If you can get the command down for that slider, get the command down for that changeup, it's going to be really, really hard to hit Will Warren. He's going to have a lot of pitches in his arsenal, but you can tell with his mentality, his eyes, that he is pitching with confidence right now. He'll get himself into trouble, and he'll work his way out of trouble. That's a really, really important skill for a starting pitcher, not to get rattled with guys on base. He's getting out of situations with guys on third, guys on second, multiple guys on base, and he's able to induce weak contact, do things with purpose and intent. So far, Will Warren really, really blossoming into this valuable pitcher for the Yankees, who they have control of until 2031. Honestly, Ryan, you heard a lot of rumors at the deadline of teams calling about Cam Schlittler, this guy and that guy. I didn't hear many people calling about Will Warren, and I was surprised by that. I was surprised. Nobody was calling to see if Will Warren was available. And he might have been one of the best guys of any value on this team at the deadline. So, I do think that was kind of interesting where we didn't hear his name much. And I don't think the Yankees really have any intention of trading him, or really did it after all. So, looking at this young core group of pitchers yesterday, we discussed Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz and how amazing he's been in Double-A so far. Looking at Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz, looking at Cam Schlittler, looking at Will Warren, and I'll ask you this question again. How encouraged are you by the pipeline of young starting pitchers, not to mention LaGrange, who, may end up in the bullpen, but, looking at this young crop of starters that are, kind of taking on a big role here for the Yankees, and that doesn't even include Luis Gil, who's still under contract for many years in arbitration, very cost efficient. How excited are you about the Yankees having cost control? They invested in 3 big pitchers, $90 million in Cole, $90 million collectively in Fried and Rodon, but the rest of their guys are extremely efficient, cheap, cost-controlled pieces that have tons of upside.
Yeah, so first and foremost, to talk about what you mentioned with Will Warren not really being a name that came up a lot in trade conversations, or at least in the public sphere. The Yankees, they garnered a lot of interest from in Warren from other teams for every reason you just mentioned. The reason it wasn't very public was because the Yankees were not going to move Will Warren, one of their better starting pitchers, given the lack of a starting pitcher market, or a lack of a deal being kind of coming together for the Yankees there, although they did try for Sandy Alcantara. There wasn't a player that they were going to just trade Warren for without that player either A, coming in a 1-for-1, or B, being that super impactful, like a Yohan Duran type, with someone I think the Yankees might have entertained it for. But even then, I don't know how serious they were about trading a Will Warren away for a reliever. I don't think they were going to trade Will Warren away for someone such as Sandy Alcantara. I don't think that was something they wanted to do. And again, just kind of looking, from my understanding and what I heard during the deadline with Will Warren, they believe he's a good starter. They do not look at that ERA and go, that's who he is. They look at every other metric that suggests he's a sub-4 ERA pitcher and goes, that is who he is. And Alex, I'm going to draw an interesting parallel here, a pretty interesting parallel to a player who also, was maybe wrongfully traded away by the New York Yankees and was also a pitcher, in Jordan Montgomery here. It's a smaller sample size. You can't really compare these two sample sizes too hard. But in 2020, the year before Montgomery kind of broke out in 2019 or 2021 for good, hit a 5.11 ERA. He started a playoff game for the Yankees that year. Why was that the case? His FIP, 3.87. His expected FIP, 3.65. His expected ERA, 3.90. The Yankees saw a better starter than the ERA suggested. I believe that's the same situation here with Will Warren. And unlike with Jordan Montgomery, Warren throws the ball a little bit harder. Warren has a little more of that like natural stuff. And I hope that if he ever becomes a consistent mid-threes ERA pitcher, that the Yankees do not choose to trade him. That would be, I think, ideal for all parties involved. But again, my point here is that when the Yankees see a young pitcher, they're not just looking at their ERA. They're not looking at the win-loss record. They're not looking at the home run rate allowed exclusively. They're looking at all of the metrics that try and estimate what your ERA should be. They're trying to look with an eye to the future. It's like how you sign free agent contracts, or you even trade for players. You don't trade for what they were. You trade for what they will be and what they will contribute. That's why the Yankees traded for Jake Bird, and I'll tell you right now, Alex, I don't think the Yankees are even remotely worried about losing that Jake Bird trade. They, internally, the Yankees feel very comfortable about where they're at with Jake Bird. They like the pitcher. They believe they're going to work on some things, tinker with some things and make him better. And with Will Warren, they didn't panic when he came up last year and stunk. Brian Cashman didn't grunt to the phones and go, man, I've got to find a way to get him out of here. He said, hey, well, if there's a right deal, everyone's available, but this is a player who they believe can help them. This is a player who they believe can anchor their rotation, at least in the middle part of the rotation, for the next few years. And again, cheap, cost-controlled pitching. Alex Cobb's, this is a double Alex there. Alex Cobb signed for $15 million on a one-year deal last year.
Frankie Montas, bro. How about him?
Yeah, Frankie Montas. Yeah, Frankie Montas signed, $17 million, and I believe the option is a player option, so he can pick it up and come back next year. He will pick it up and come back next year. Marcus Stroman, we're going to end up paying him north of $40 million when you include the buyout, I believe, and that is over 2 years. So my point I'm getting at here is if the Yankees are paying $800,000 for a 4 ERA and 30 starts, that's a win. This was an 8th round pick. I see a lot of people go like, another overhyped Yankee prospect. The guy was an 8th round pick. 8th round pick. You know what 8th round picks become? Not bust. They don't get there. They don't ever reach the major leagues. That's what 8th round.
They don't even get the opportunity to be a bust.
Right. They never get the chance to struggle in the big leagues because they don't get there. Will Warren's here. Will Warren starting to pitch better, and I'll say this right now, over the last 2 months, has he been the Yankees' best starter? Because I think he has. For the last 2 months, he's outpitched Fried. He's
100%.
outpitched Rodon. Don't think Stroman's a hard bar to clear. Schmidt's hurt. Yarbrough's hurt. He hasn't even pitched in the last 2 months. He's been their best starter over that stretch. That takes gumption. What he did yesterday takes balls, takes gumption. That's what I'll say. He is not people have this perception of like a weak, mild-mannered character, and like, he's probably a quieter guy. He never really struck me as like a loud person. But when he came on this podcast, did you get the perception this was a guy who was like scared, who was nervous?
No.
He just came off a guy who was ready, prepared, wanted the opportunity, and he's showing it right now.
Yeah, and I'll say this, man. You know what I've loved over the last couple of weeks, and I know the Yankees have been struggling, but want to know who's really stepped up in that time, played with urgency, but even had the balls to say something about it? The young talent on this team. Ben Rice saying, we got to play with some damn urgency. Ben Rice goes out, he plays his ass off. You know what I mean? Like, he's hitting homers, he's making plays defensively, he's catching when Austin Wells can't do it, even though, he did not come up to this team as the de facto backup catcher. He was expected to be kind of this first base and utility option, just DH option, but he's catching because this team needs him to be in the lineup offensively. He's doing everything he can to play at the highest level possible. And I respect Ben Rice for that, not to mention talking about it and being a leader in that clubhouse. Will Warren, one of the youngest guys on this team, 26 years old, decides, you know what? Everyone else is struggling. I'm going to go out and throw absolute gas and step up and play with confidence and have some urgency. And you can see it in his eyes. You watch Garrett Cole pitch and he has that like kind of like laser focus. Like he's in his own world. You watch Will Warren sometimes when he's having these types of performances, and he's just in his own world. Like he's playing a game in his own head. That type of intensity, the Yankees, the veterans on this team have been lackadaisical at times. Jazz just him hanging his head or, just doing his usual stuff, or other guys, just not picking up the pieces where they've needed to. I'm not singling out Jazz by any means, more so just like he was using him as an example because he's a very electrifying and outgoing player. When things aren't going as well, sometimes those guys kind of get a little bit quieter. And I think that having those young pieces stepping up into leadership roles is super special. Really, really fun. And shout out to, totally side quest here. Shout out David Bednar, who's been a freaking rock in the bullpen, locking shit down. Him and Luke Weaver, the new dynamic duo. Devin Williams, buddy, I'm sorry, but you are now low leverage. David Bednar, Luke Weaver, wow. Like those two guys, those are the guys I want pitching in the postseason right now.
I think the X factor for them at this point is a guy like Doval, where the meltdown against Houston, don't get me wrong, not good. But I think that had more to do with the bad defensive play than the walk. Even though I hated the walk, I despised it. I was really upset about it. But the bad defensive play is what burned him there, not the walks. If he turned, they had a double play turned. He had him dead to rights. He doesn't give up hard contact. And the other thing I really liked from that outing, even though it didn't go well, it was one of his highest velo outings of the year. Like, he was sitting 99. He was throwing gas, man. Like, that's really important. And again, hasn't been perfect with the Yankees. Has been far from perfect with the Yankees. But a lot of soft contact. You're kind of seeing, what can make for a pretty reliable back end, or back of the bullpen arm that helps you long term. And the other, you mentioned David Bednar. He comes in and gets strikeouts. What makes David Bednar the guy, or a guy that you need him in these late inning scenarios, is he's going to come in and just strike everybody out. 34.4% strikeout rate, man. You need that in your bullpen. You hoped Williams was going to be that for you last year. Or this year, he hasn't been that for you. He has not stepped up in that regard. Can a guy like Brent Hedrick, who's come up and missed bats, can he continue to step up for you? You need heroes in your pitching staff now. Mark Leonard Jr.'s come back. He's looked sharp. Can he be a hero? Can he step up and be a guy for you? Since coming back, bunch of double plays, soft contact. He actually hasn't gotten a strikeout, walk, or allowed a home run since coming back, which I think is pretty funny. Gary De Los Santos has stepped up. You're going to need heroes. You're going to need guys to step up. Last year, we saw Tim Hill and Jake Cousins kind of grab it by the balls, Michael Tonkin for a bit, and say, I don't care that you don't know who we are. We're going to come in and we're going to be big arms for you down the stretch. We're going to need some guys to do that. We're going to need Yeri to keep throwing. We're going to need Hedrick to maybe be a guy for us. Cruz, I know, is starting a rehab assignment Thursday. If he comes back, he's another big weapon. Will Warren and Ben Rice are the young guys stepping up. Now you need other guys to fall into place and kind of this is where you can build momentum and get something going, right? This is where you can string together wins. Win tonight. Win tomorrow. Screw the Twins. Go sweep them. Go take your off day. Go into the weekend. Feel good. You need to string wins together. You're only one game back from Boston in the loss column. Are you aware of that? I didn't even realize. The Yankees have been awful, terrible. The Blue Jays aren't really even that. I'm going to say this. I don't think the Blue Jays are a team where you sit back and go, we can't beat them. Yes, you can. You can beat any of these teams in front of you. You've got to clean up on the easier part of the schedule, have guys step up, and go win some damn baseball games. This is a team that has no business missing the postseason, and I'm not going to sit here and start going today, well, you know what? They can't get there. They have no chance of getting there. I got to see them turning around before I believe, but this team has no business not being in the postseason. I'm sorry. They have no business not being there. None.
100%. They should be in the postseason. I think they will be when all is said and done. I think the Yankees have historically dominated the Twins. Right now, the Astros obviously beat the Red Sox yesterday, but hopefully, we hate the Astros, but do us a little favor right now and, clean up the Red Sox for us so we can take back that second spot. And I know the Jays didn't play yesterday either. I'm actually curious. Do you know who the Jays played today? They are playing the Cubs, and the Cubs are a good ball club, very good ball club. So, if the Cubs can beat up on the Jays a little bit and the Astros keep beating the Red Sox, the Yankees are right back here in the mix. They're 6 games back in the American League East, but there's a lot of baseball left to play, my friends. We saw the Yankees squander a 7-game lead in about 2 weeks. There's no reason to believe they can't reclaim a 6-game deficit in a month and a half. So, we'll be keeping close track. Wanted to kind of talk about some positives today, obviously. Tomorrow, we have another episode scheduled that I think you guys will really like. Another young prospect that has blossomed into a very nice contributor who we have mentioned in this podcast today. But always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section about Will Warren and the state of this team. Always happy to have good conversation there. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.